The automotive industry is full of needs, but what does it take to find a solution to fill these needs? Today's guest, Tom Burton, has our answer. Tom's parents said they wouldn't pay for college, so he said he would join the military to call their bluff. It turns out they were not bluffing, and he eventually became an F-16 weapons mechanic for the U.S. Air Force. Throughout his life, he has always dreamed of being an inventor, and throughout his career as an aircraft mechanic, he saw a need that could fulfill that dream. Working on an aircraft is very tedious work, where you absolutely cannot lose a bolt, or any piece for that matter, and on a curved metal machine, that becomes a difficult task. His solution, Grypmat, the world's best non-slip flexible tool tray. From a kid dreaming of being an inventor, to actually finding a need and providing a solution, his idea airing on Shark Tank, and making the Forbes 30 Under 30 list, Tom has definitely achieved the title of inventor. Let's hear how he did it. Welcome to the Cutting Edge Garage Podcast.
Hi, everybody. This is Lee Locklear. Welcome back to the Cutting Edge Garage Podcast. We're grateful to have Tom Burton from Grypmat here with us today. Tom, where are you joining us from?
Yeah, Lee, really excited to be on your guys' podcast, inventor of the Grypmat. And yeah, I'm joining you today from Hawaii, the island of Kauai. Escaped here just before quarantine hit, and then got, some people say stuck in Kauai. I say blessed in Kauai. But yeah, I've been having a blast during the quarantine.
Yeah, it sounds there could be, much worse places to be stuck.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Like Alabama.
Yeah, we've been hating it. The beaches were closed for all of 2 weeks, killed us. But the beach was closed, but you could go out boating.
Okay.
You could go to the beach, just not put your foot on the sand. You just had to be in the water a little bit. Yeah. So
it looks like you're keeping up your tan.
Trying a little bit, working on it for sure. I might have participated in a little bit of social distancing on the boat.
Okay. Gotcha. Love it.
So Tom, correct me if I'm wrong, but my understanding is you came through the Air Force, and the Air Force was because mom and dad said they weren't paying for college. Is that fairly accurate?
Yeah. I grew up in a pretty small farm town, blue collar area, and my dad specifically has this love-hate relationship with college. He'll be very oh, there's so many dumb people in college, and then he'll be like, but you should go to college for engineering. and then growing up, I always wanted to be so I wanted to be an inventor. I remember when I was a little kid, I was getting pictures taken with my Legos, and I told her I want to be an inventor, and the photographer, she goes, oh, like an engineer. So I just growing up always thought being an engineer was same as inventor. And then I learned the hard way when I finally got to college that was not the case. Engineers are made to solve problems, not find problems and solve problems.
Definitely not the right major.
Yeah. I mean, there's not really a right major for inventor or entrepreneur, really. But had a pretty big background of working on cars, doing general construction, and I really didn't want to get into college debt. And the only real solution was to join the military, and which was, long run, a huge blessing, built a lot of my character. And, when I transitioned into the Air Force, I was working on the Gatling gun of fighter jets. So, I was very familiar with working with tools, very familiar with, the basics. Never worked on a giant machine gun, but, specifically my the background was with automotive, was working on snow plows, and then doing general construction with my dad. So, just ended up growing from there, and started. I was doing the Air Force and college at the same time is when I started Grypmat.
Excellent. So first of all, thank you for your service. We appreciate
thanks for your
that.
Support.
Yeah. So, you're working on F-16s, correct? And
Yep.
You come up with this awesome idea for Grypmat. So that's when the engineer college guy meets the entrepreneur businessman, and things start to click. So walk us through that a little bit.
Yeah. So at the time, I had the background of working with tools, very familiar. And then also I was in a vocational school in high school called TriStar. And we did, I learned like machine trades. We're working with like mills and lathes. And then also did a class of CAD, computer aided drafting. So was really versed in a software called SolidWorks to like draw 3D images of products. And have this idea. So what was happening is I would always record new ideas that I had on my phone. And then it turned into like, sometimes I would just identify a problem. So the problem, I remember I couldn't come up with a solution, but I was so frustrated with the problem of my tools constantly sliding off the aircraft or needing to like, you basically walk 10 feet, go down a ladder, and then walk another 5 feet to your toolbox. You need to do that every single time you need to get a new tool. So I felt like it was a huge waste of time. And I was like, I know there's a simple solution that could solve this complex problem. I just need to like spend some time thinking about it. So I record the problem in my phone, and I was thinking about all these other ideas of like, maybe if we had like some type of string system to like tie all the tools to our shirt, or like maybe if I had like a magnetic vest, I could just like stick all the tools to my chest. We weren't allowed to put anything in our pockets in case we'd like lose something. What happens in the Air Force is you have to be accountable for everything that is used on the aircraft. So what will happen is if you're used to putting things in your pocket, sometimes like in a shift change, like first shift will leave and then someone will have something in their pocket and then end up going to sleep. And then night shift is thinking that they've lost something in a plane. So that's why they don't let us put anything in our pockets.
And then you're grounding an F-16 until somebody finds that socket.
Yeah, you're really grounding like the entire flight line. So you're grounding like the whole base potentially. So yeah, step one is like grounding that one F-16. And then like if things escalate, then it's grounding everything. So
that can be inconvenient.
Yeah, it can be very inconvenient. You can actually like losing one thing would result into what they call a FODWOC. FOD stands for foreign object damage. So every single person in maintenance will come out, stand shoulder to shoulder, walk all the way down and all the way back on the flight line. So losing one tool could result into a FODWOC, which could result into basically 100 man hours lost. So the core of like the Grypmat is like, especially in the aviation industry, is keeping your tools accountable during maintenance, where in the aviation industry, there's a lot of like, there's tool accountability systems like that are pre and post maintenance. Like you check your tools out when you get them, then you check your tools in when you put them back, which is great. But this is like an added layer of accountability where, it's like, where are you setting your tools during maintenance? Because could easily be a 12-hour shift that you're working on a couple of dozen aircraft. So where are your tools going during that time? Where something as simple as like an orange tray, of being in the habit of constantly setting your tools in the orange tray. So there's not like, a lot of industries don't have as extensive tool accountability systems or a demand for it, but it is having the support of doing tool accountability during maintenance is helpful in almost every category, wherever there's tools really.
Okay.
But if that's motorcycles, cars, planes, we've been getting into like police officers and in-home defense have been using it to clean their gear. So that's been pretty cool. But
awesome.
Yeah.
So how did you go from working on F-16s to the idea for the Grypmat and then where you are today? Walk us through that a little bit.
Yeah. So how it went down was had this idea, and I was really thinking of retiring from the Air Force. And I was thinking, maybe if I played my cards right afterwards, I could do this after I retired. And there was someone at my base who retired before I got there, named Rick Letterman, who created a software that you check in tools in and out of the tool crib. And I didn't know who he was, never met him. I just heard people talking about him. And every once in a while he would come by the base with driving his Ferrari. And when I had this idea, I was like, I need to talk to that guy. And I just kept asking everyone I could until I found out who he was, because he retired like 5 years before I got in, but some of the older guys knew who he was. There was, people saying, oh yeah, someone had an idea, now he's a millionaire. Who is that? I don't know, but Sergeant Kramer might know. Go to Kramer. Oh yeah, he's got a Ferrari. What's his name? His name's Letterman. I don't know his first name. And then I just kept searching everything online, and I found a picture of him online at a Cars and Coffee in front of his Ferrari. And then it said his company name, which is Soaring Software Solutions. And I searched that and I found a phone number and I just called it. And I was like, hey, this is Tom Burton. Can I talk to Rick Letterman? And he's like, yeah, may I ask who's speaking? And I go, this is Tom Burton from the 180th Fighter Wing from the Weapons Squadron. And then he's like, all right. And then I just heard his voice. I was like, holy shit, I got him. And ended up meeting with him for like 2 hours. And he just kind of explained how he went through his process. And I still see Rick today at certain like aviation shows, which is really cool because he was like the very first person I ever told about the idea. And so that was honestly, looking back on it, the most important piece of that was just like encouragement that seeing Rick could do it, I could do something similar. And it was kind of funny because I asked Rick, I was like, when you had the idea to it being like the Air Force standard, how much time was that? He goes, it was about 3 years. And I was thinking, 3 years, man, that's so long. And I'm thinking, well, with Rick, I could probably get it in like a year, right? A year's not that bad. And what I realized, like right now, I think I'm hitting about year 7 with Grypmat. So what I realized is that a lot of people, what they expect on day 1 is roughly what they'll get about year 3, where they're like, oh, this is a great idea. This should be, the Air Force will buy this instantly. Where not really. It's going to take some time for things to get through. So get all hyped up with Rick. The real like foundation of Grypmat came from a competition called Startup Weekend, which in a week you'll pitch a new idea, and then the entire weekend you get in groups and try to make your idea come to life. So that was a big one. And then I just started prototyping. So originally, so what happened was I was sitting in my mom's car, saw that she had a non-slip mount on her dashboard, and to keep her cell phone in place when driving, I was like, well, we can make these larger for tools. So I do Startup Weekend. We've got some ideas wanting to launch them. The original idea was that for every opening on the jet, so there's no hood on a jet. You have to take off these panels and then you work on the inside. Now, the problem is a lot of people are setting tools inside the jet. So the original idea was that a Grypmat would like hook onto the opening, and then there was the original ones only had a lip on the bottom as it was and then the hook going in. So the idea was to have form-fitted Grypmats all over each jet. So if you're working on the Gatling gun, you'd get those set of Grypmats. If you're working on the tail, then you'd get those set of Grypmats. And then after making several prototypes, I was sitting on the jet with a guy from the electrical shop, and I was like, where would you want to set your tools here? And he was like, well, it'd be cool if you had one with a lip all the way around the edge and I could just set it anywhere. And then I was like, yeah, just like a box? He's like, yeah, just like a box. So ran home, I would make molds out of wood and paint them and then spray release on them. And at that time it was Thanksgiving break, and I was at my parents' house for Thanksgiving break, and I was in my dad's barn just cutting pieces of wood and painting them and gluing them together. And that's what like really brought the prototype. And at the same time, I was constantly doing business competitions, filling out grants, between business competitions and like filling out different types of grants, probably raised like $160,000. And that was like really, really helped like pushing me forward, and looking back on it, like helped stay out of a lot of debt. Right. We're completely debt free, which is a huge blessing.
Oh man, that's awesome. That's absolutely awesome.
Yeah. So that was like the foundation of like just getting a prototype. I did a lot of the grant systems I was doing were based off of the business model canvas. So if anyone who's listening who's interested in like starting a business, just search in YouTube business model canvas. It really breaks down, what you're looking for a business. The core of it is around getting customer feedback, potential customer. I think they would call it customer contacts. So someone who you think would buy the product, getting like that raw information from them. So one thing I was doing wrong was saying something like, "Hey, I got this prototype. You think you would use this on your plane or your car?" And they'd be like, "Yeah, that would work." But the right feedback would be asking them questions like, "Hey, when you're working on your car, what's the top 3 issues you have with your tools? Or when you're working on your car, where are you setting your tools? And how is that serving you?" Well, I actually have them scattered all over the engine. Well, you want them to say it's something closer to your the problem that your product is going to solve. So ideally you would start really zoomed out and then slowly like zoom in to the problem. So really zoomed out would be a question like, what's your number or top 3 issues when working on your car? And if they say, well, when I'm working on this back tire, it's hard to use my jack stand when I'm on the gravel or whatever. That's like completely irrelevant to the problem I'm trying to solve. Okay, what's your top 3 problems when you're working underneath the hood of your car? Okay, if you're like starting to get closer to that, then it's, that's where you're like really starting to identify the customer needs. Because the biggest problem with entrepreneurs is that they think that they know everything, and they're like, "Oh, I got this. There's a problem. I got a solution. I'm sure it's a problem for everyone and the right solution for everyone." So,
and if everybody can't see that, they're just not intelligent enough to see it. What's wrong with them?
Yeah, you're right. They're like, these customers, they don't see what that they need this. So the thing is, if you're already in their brain understanding like what they, what they're doing, how they're operating, and their pain points, that's like really good feedback. And also getting information of like their whole ecosystem of how they operate. Where are you buying your tools? Where, is it a tool truck? Is it online? Do you go to Harbor Freight? Why do you go there? What are you looking for? What are you, when you go to Harbor Freight, what's the pros and cons of that? What's the pros and cons of going onto a tool truck? There's very obvious of like quality or price is typically what's driving them to go to those 2 locations. So, and another, sometimes like, I would say a dangerous point is when you do have some experience in the field and you think you already know everything, where, having some experience in the field has a lot of credibility, but at the same time, like make sure you're not being a know-it-all and you're still getting that feedback from the customers. So,
my experience has been humility and gratitude go a long way.
Yeah, for sure. And I feel like cutting edge, you've really like that's definitely the vibe that you get from your entire company. Your culture is the word I'm looking for. So yeah, those two are like huge in the cutting edge culture. I can see. Even every time I interact with you guys, like we chatted at seeing that first time, and then at Matt's, and then when I really felt that those were big qualities of your guys' company was when we were at the Mac Tool Show.
Yeah, that was a good show. Speaking of SEMA, and I'm going to come back to this because I want to talk to you a little bit more about the prototypes and the hard work that goes into that.
Yeah.
That by the time you get to this, Oh, there's that demo again. So by the time you get to this, right, the people that buy this don't get to see all of the hard work that led up to that. So I do want to touch on that. But touching on the CEMA, so I'm at the booth, and we were talking about this right before we got started, right? So I'm at the booth, and I tell the guys, most of my crew that was there with me that time had never been to CEMA. So I told them, your goal during this show is to go out and find really cool products and, stuff that we can market. And Bill, the guy that's on the background here doing the podcast, stumbled across your booth, and your mom did the demo for him, right? So everybody sees this. You pick it up, right? You throw it down, and I can't pick this up now. So he was sold. He had no idea what the technicians were going to use this for or anything else, but your mom sold him with the demo. So he comes back, and he's telling me about this Grypmat thing, but he can't really articulate to me what it is or what it does. It's just awesome, and we got to take it on. And I wouldn't say that we blew it off. It wasn't a priority for us, right? So
yeah, I mean, there's so much content coming on. Like it's hard to, hard to, follow up with everything.
So couple months later, he walks into the office. We're having a marketing meeting, and he said, "Did you see the Grypmat guy was on Shark Tank? I told you we should have got in on that." So tell us about and no offense to the show, but I've never watched Shark Tank. I've heard about it, and I've seen some of the highlights and stuff like that. But my entire crew watches the show, right? So tell us about that experience, and I guess I have to eat crow a little bit, and I had to tell Bill, you know what, Bill, maybe you were right. So tell us about the Shark Tank experience.
Yeah, it was pretty wild with Shark Tank. I applied online. They have what I call scouts, which are people who encourage people to get signed up. And one reached out to me from having like a really successful Kickstarter. And they're like, hey, good for the show. You should sign up. Here's a link to register. So get signed up. And I was able to use my Kickstarter video for Shark Tank. And, things would progress. It was pretty tough because they would ask, so you're trying to push a startup and you're doing everything you can to like push the company forward. And then what would happen is, they're asking for something like here's like a 20 to like 45 to 50 page, like document or information that they want you to fill out. And, or like film like 4 or 5 different pitches that you would want to do on Shark Tank. And so it became like, it was a lot of time and effort. And this, I didn't really know the numbers. I knew they were tough, but like there's about 120 people that will actually get on the show and about 60,000 people that will apply. So it is like pretty, like the numbers are pretty tough, but I was constantly like, I wouldn't let myself get excited. I was constantly like, or every once in a while I'd get an email about like, hey, you're in the top half, you're in the top 10,000, you made it to the next round or whatever. And then what ended up happening was when you're in the top like 1,000, you get a producer, and they're trying to each producer will get around 100, and they need to cut it down to 10. So I was constantly like looking for things that would be like good for TV, or like how I could relate better with the sharks. The whole like story of military is perfect, content. People love to watch that stuff on TV. So that was good. But once I found out like Richard Branson was a shark, what happened? Found out he was a shark. And then, I realized that we both had the same birthday. So I used that as leverage to help me like get in the top 10. And the toughest part with Shark Tank is that, well, one, there's a lot of like work into getting there. And then 2, the most mentally tough thing is the entire time you don't know if you're going to film. And then if you do film, you don't know if you're going to air. So the thing is they constantly want to have entrepreneurs on standby in case if they can squeeze in another filming, because they got a lot of money rolled up in like filming the stage, having the sharks there and everything. So let's say they have time for like 10 people in one day. And then let's say someone drops out, they'll have someone at the hotel ready to fill in. Or let's say those 10 people go quick and they can squeeze in 11th. You know, they're constantly wanting people on stage ready to go. So you go there and you're like, you know, like they're like, well, when do I film? And then they're like, well, we got to do a practice pitch first. And I completely bombed the practice pitch hard. And I thought because the practice pitch, they wouldn't let me keep going.
Nerves or why did you bomb? Was it nerves or
hardcore?
Yeah.
Yeah. I was actually struggling really hard with imposter syndrome, which is,
you know what Zig Ziglar says, right? It's, you know, the butterfly.
That?
The key to butterflies is just getting them flying formation.
Yeah, that's cool. You a Zig Ziglar fan?
I'm a huge Zig Ziglar fan. Yeah, huge Zig.
He's
Ziglar
old
fan.
school.
Yeah,
Zig's cool.
I'm getting up there in age. Maybe I'm showing my age.
Yeah. Is there anyone else that you're big fans of?
Tony Robbins, Brian Tracy.
I don't know Brian.
Brian Tracy's old school, like Zig Ziglar. But
Okay.
I listen to the Tony Robbins podcast a lot.
I
think he's had some really interesting people. A lot of really cool entrepreneurs like yourself, you know, kind of giving that backstory. I watched one about the lady that created Orange Fitness, you know, out of getting fired and starting out of her garage. So it was like
Orange Theory?
awesome. Yeah, Orange Theory. I'm sorry. Yeah, Orange Theory. So it was a really cool, story, much like yours. You know, this is that process that you know, you kind of went through. So I didn't mean to cut you off. Keep going.
Oh, you're good. You're good. Yeah, my favorite guys are Eric Thomas. Les Brown's really good. I feel like I do like Tony Robbins a lot. I feel like he's kind of the holy grail right now. He's like the biggest one in the category. But yeah, we finally end up filming Shark Tank, and like right after we're planning to fly to Vegas to film for the SEMA launch pad. And it was funny because so we finally get there. It's kind of a long story, but we came late, and we filmed for like the semifinals. And so we filmed for the semifinals, and right after I like go to get some water at a drinking fountain, and when I'm coming back, Brian, who's the head of the launch pad, he looks at me and goes, "So you're gonna be on Shark Tank?" And I was like, how the fuck did he know? Like, holy shit. And I was like, that would be really cool if one day I could be on Shark Tank. And
you played that off pretty well.
Yeah, the guy I was with, I was like, did you tell Brian that we just came from Shark Tank? He's like, no, I swear I didn't tell anyone. And what I realized is that people like in my situation, they'd be like, hey man, you gonna be on Shark Tank? Like you should be on, when they say you're gonna be on Shark Tank, they are saying you would be a good fit for Shark Tank. And then I realized, because I was at a cookout and I walked up and my buddy was like, Tom's gonna be on Shark Tank. And I was like, how? Then I realized he didn't know. He was just like saying that. So the thing is, a part of Shark Tank is right when you get there, they have you watch this thing of Fight Club, except when Brad Pitt, every time he says Fight Club, they dub it out and say Shark Tank.
You do not talk about Shark Tank.
Don't talk about Shark Tank. Don't ever, tell anyone that you were here. Don't take any pictures. Like, don't say anything. So what's tough is you have this giant event that happens in your life, and then you just can't talk about. Like, they don't want you to talk about it because they don't want the story to get out about like what happened on the show. If everyone knows that you get a combo deal with Lori, Mark, and Richard, like then it potentially could hurt their views. So, which I totally get. It's just like very stressful and kind of awkward, with the aftermath or the time frame between filming and actually airing. So anyway, we film with SEMA. It's funny because I was like, very, very well rehearsed with like any questions just from like preparing for Shark Tank. And I was seeing like the other competitors like super nervous. And I was like, dude, I think I'll be fine. Going, it's just like Brian asking questions and like a camera guy. It's no one like that could potentially like get in your face. So it was very rehearsed. We did like one take and we were completely done, where some other people it took a lot longer to like keep like doing more takes. And by the time from that point, which was we filmed in June 17th was when we filmed Shark Tank. I think June 18th is when we filmed CEMA, and then we didn't know we were airing until like November 12th. So we got the thumbs up that we could tell people that we were actually going to air a week before SEMA. So that was just like Operation Domination that year. It was just like, we end up winning SEMA Launchpad. Like I'm on stage doing like the demo, and at the very end, they're like, any more questions from like the judges? And I was just like, they're like, we're good. And I just said, like, tune in this Sunday to watch us on Shark Tank. And then everyone was like, what? Holy shit. So
that's awesome.
Yeah, it was pretty cool. And then, we had the kiosk. So when you're in the finals for the Launchpad, you get like a kiosk. It was just like a 2 foot by 3 foot table that it's like a mini booth. And then we had our own booth. So it's pretty cool. They were kind of close to each other. So some people would see us twice and they're like, wait, did I just see you over there? And then, because sometimes, you know how it is at trade shows, sometimes they'll see you a few times before they actually register that your product or your company or your brand. So SEMA has been like a really awesome place to network for anyone in our industry. I mean, it's so well known. I recently did a podcast with SEMA ETTN, just another entity within SEMA, and they're really cool guys there. I really enjoy hanging out with those guys. But
it's a great organization for the industry for sure. They do great things.
Right.
So,
or go ahead.
So I was going to ask you. So how fast do the balls start moving from? I'm in Dad's barn on your time off from school, right? Cutting wooden prototypes to I'm on SEMA Launchpad, I'm on Shark Tank, I get selected on Shark Tank, and now I've got this investment and, boom, boom, boom. Walk us through how fast that actually starts happening in your mind.
So I was able to do prototypes fairly quickly, probably a year of getting a prototype. So there's the concept of getting a prototype and there's the concept of mass production. So when I was making a prototype, I would take an A/B mix of material, pour it together, and then stir it, then dump that into a mold. That would take 24 hours to cure. Now we need to switch to something that's manufacturable that is going to be able to do it in seconds. So prototypes within a year, production about 2 years, and then sales. So basically it took about 3 years of just getting into sales. So before that was no money. It was really just hustling for grant money or doing competitions, trying to really build the credibility. And then from there, it was after 3 years, which I called the dark ages. After 3 years, it was it really started to move upward. SEMA and Shark Tank obviously really helped accelerate that. So I mean, I think it would be successful without SEMA Launchpad or without Grypmat, but I would say those two things, the biggest value that they've given, obviously a lot of sales recognition, but probably more of the street cred, more of the credibility. I mean, being on Shark Tank has a lot of exposure, but in addition to that, there was you know, getting 3 sharks on Shark Tank is like pretty unique episode. So brings a lot of excitement. I've seen a lot of people who have bombed Shark Tank. So typically, like, any potential like distributor or even any customer, like, they love that content, and then they love watching Shark Tank. It's a very entertaining show, and then they like having such an amazing outcome has just like really magnified it. So
Okay.
Yeah, it's so basically year of prototyping, 2 years of manufacturing, and then really started to sell. So probably like 2 or 3 years of like really starting to scale up. So
And in that scaling, how fast do the balls start to move? So you go from being on your own to, you know, which is a ball coming at you every now and then, to a lot of balls coming at you simultaneously. Yeah.
Yeah. So I think one thing to keep in mind for other like entrepreneurs is just keep in mind like the snowball theory. Like it'll start to get bigger. It's not going to just, you're not going to wake up and it'll be bigger. So like the very first time I ever sold anything was at Oshkosh 2016, sold in like with product in hand. I took some pre-orders before that, but I brought 600 Grypmats and I like trailered the whole thing, trying to like save costs on like shipping anything for a trade show booth. And I remember like in the truck, I had so many Grypmats in the back of the truck in the trailer that I couldn't even see out of the passenger window. So I drove like 8 hours to get to Oshkosh. And the first day I sold 13, and it's a 7-day trade show. And I was like, damn, like this is not going to work how I thought it would. Because what I was thinking is like that I would just wake up and it would be the snowball. It wasn't going to, or a big giant snowball. It's not going to like start small and then pick up. So, you know, really learned hands-on of like marketing, word of mouth. And so first day sold like 13, the next day sold like 21 or 25. And then we're getting like 30s, 40s. And then like after the first day, I was super discouraged. And I remember just thinking like what I would always say to myself is no opportunity will be lost due to my effort. So what that means is basically like, because the first day I sold only 13, doesn't mean I'm going to like have, like, I'm going to give my product as much opportunity as I can. Like my effort will always be there. And it turned into like, so I was very like discouraged leaving the trade show, but then it turned into like, you know, I'm going to go early, stay late, and I'm going to find crash after parties afterwards. And I'm going to set up Grypmats and I'm going to sell at the after parties. And, you know, crashing those after parties only brought like a handful of Grypmats sold, but then it was just more word of mouth of people coming to my booth saying, hey, were you at that party last night? Were you at that event the other night that you were selling Grypmats? I think I saw you there. And I was like, yeah. And then it was just like another impression for that customer for them to see me again. And so ended up at the last day of the show, ended up selling 100 Grypmats, which was like huge because everyone was saying the last day is the slowest day. And then across the aisle from me was someone who normally sells in the automotive industry. And they asked if they could be a distributor and wanted to buy everything that I had left. So that show, at the trade show, I sold like $13,000 worth. And then the new distributor across the hall, he wrote me a check for $10,240. When he gave it to me, I thought it was like fake. So I helped him load up his trailer, and we drove like an hour south, which is on the way back from me, and where their warehouse was, and unloaded. And I was like, he gave me a check, and I remember like going straight to the bank, thinking You're like, do I cash this? Like, I don't think this is real. Like, do
I
I
got to make sure this is legit. I got to get my money.
Yeah, like, cause I mean, like, this is cool, 10 grand, but like, I still got a lot of money in those Grypmats. Like, if this is fake, like, I'm really out of luck.
Yeah, I'm screwed.
Yeah. So ended up being real, and I think like the next week I got a distributor, like our very first distributor, which was Aircraft Spruce. They put in an order for like. It was funny because we didn't, at the time, we didn't know how to like negotiate with distributor. And the guy he's not around anymore, but he made like a deal with Aircraft Spruce, or he like registered it on the website, the Grypmat on their website. And he gave like way too much margin. He's like, well, I want them to like us. I'm like, they can like us by just selling the product, not by giving them all the money. So Aircraft Spruce was like, they were trying to like, I said, hey, here's the new margin, and there needs to be an MOQ, minimum order quantity, of like 240, which is like crazy amount to me at the time. So they ended up putting a PO like over $8,000, and I was just like, holy shit! Like a week, or like basically 2 weeks, I just made like 30 grand, and I'm like, this is insane. So I go home and I sell my house, and I take all the other money to like buy more Grypmats to like, because what's happening is there's a delay in like getting it made, and I got to front the money to like get it made, and then like getting the product to our warehouse, and then actually selling it. So by the time I'll upfront my cash, and then by the time I actually like yield a return, easily could be 3-4 months. So I sell the house, take the money, and put it into like getting more Grypmats, and just started this like process of like growing Grypmat, and then just started doing more trade shows. It was all very like going to one trade show, and people would be like, hey, you going to this other trade show? And like, what's that? And then I'm like, sure, let's do it. So did NBAA, which is National Business Aviation Association, and had, it's funny because the booths were so bad. They were horrible. Like, it was a table that I would like buy from Walmart and then return to Walmart after I was done, covered with like my black bed sheet, and then a display that my house that I had in Toledo, I ripped off a door off the garage and I cut it up to make a display. And then I painted it black. So it had this like, it was kind of like this, and it had this like this curved board. And then I would lay Grypmats on the curved board, similar to the display now.
So we're not the only ones that did some creative things with trade show booths then early on.
Yeah. I'm like, I was doing like random stuff, like going to like neighboring hotels, like getting their luggage cart, and like using that to like pile
Carry
up
stuff
on my
in.
Yeah, bring stuff in. Or since I was in the military, you get free check luggage. So I would, instead of paying to ship my booth, I would put the entire booth in the check luggage, and then so there was like
that's awesome.
I mean, there's countless times I would. So initially, I think I broke like all the standards for that, because initially it was like you could have up to 5 bags up to 100 pounds. Then they like 3 bags up to 70 pounds. Now it's like 2 bags at the normal weight of like 50 pounds. So when it was like 5 bags up to 100 pounds, I would easily be walking through the airport with like 3 check luggages, a book bag, and then like a carry-on, just trying to like wheel everything at the same time by myself. And I remember like I was always too cheap to pay the $5 to get that one cart that holds all your shit.
So where does that financial conservativeness come from? So most people would have went to the bank and borrowed money to make more Grypmats instead of selling the house. you go home and you're like, yep, the house has got to go. I need more Grypmats. So now the benefit to that, and I have a great appreciation for it because we do the same thing. So we've basically have built the business with cash. I enjoy not owing anybody anything. Where does that come from with you? What drives that decision to just kind of pay for everything as you go and not have that financial overhead?
Yeah. So growing up, the core of it was my parents, they would, any money that I would get as a kid, like as long as I can remember this, probably like 4 or 5, they were like, any money that you get, half of it has to go to the bank. And then you can have the other half. So actually we were like very hardcore Christian growing up, and 10% of my money would go to the church. So if I got $10, $5 would go to the bank. I would get $5, but then I would had to pay 10% of the whole thing from my own money. So I would actually only get $4. So right from the beginning, the feeling of like when you get your first job and you get completely ripped off from taxes, I got a taste of that when I was like 4. So I was just like, all the money that I would put in the bank, I was just like, any money that I would keep, I would just hang on to it. Another thing is my mom is an extreme couponer, which means she's like frugal as can be. So that made me like, it was also like pretty eye-opening of like with the couponers, like extreme couponing world is like, whatever you want, there's a way to find it for cheaper. You know, if you have to clip coupons or find some type of point system, like it's there. So that like saving money at the same time, like when I was younger, I was I hated reading, but I loved math because I hated reading because there's a lot of like random rules that like I before C, except after E or whatever, except like there was just like random rules that were just created just because, where in math, everything has to be routed to a reasoning, like a logical reasoning. So I got very good at math, and just with the savings combined with being good at math and not afraid of math made me like very good with money. And also, I mean, I was kind of in a situation where I didn't have much like credibility to like really get into debt. I mean, I could to a point, but I just was constantly, I just knew that the resources were out there and I just need to tap into them. So that's like a huge thing I see now with entrepreneurs is that, especially people out of college, they're like, they go to college in a bunch of debt. They do they go and find their normal job, and they make 2 really big mistakes. 1, they got into a lot of debt, and 2, they basically get what I call golden handcuffs, which means that they get into their job of being an accountant or a nurse or whatever. They're making like good money, and then they like get that car payment. They get that house, you know, that expensive like apartment. And the thing is, when they want to switch into doing their own entrepreneur or their own business, then it just turns into like they have all these liabilities that a lot of cash is going out to, and they can't like, it's so hard to keep up with that, especially like when I was talking about the dark ages of 3 years of no money, like not too many people can last 3 years with no money. So a lot of people like now are they have so much like pressure from debt and from like finances, and they just
drives their lifestyle.
Right. It's so, yeah, it definitely drives their lifestyle, and it like can easily push them off. I had so much stress trying to like push the product forward. Like there's no way I could have one more thing holding me back, like the debt. So, yeah, I was very fortunate to have that mindset of not going into debt. It's kind of crazy seeing people, especially in the military, because the military people get like, I mean, if you think about it, graphic of enlisted people who go into the military are typically low to middle income type families. So the thought process of financial education is like isn't very common. So the thing is, when you're forced to go to basic training for a couple months and you don't have a way to spend money, and then you're getting paid the whole time, and you get out of basic training, you're like, shit, I got a couple grand in my bank account. They've never had that much money, and they just blow it. So yeah, I guess like learning at a young age, the mindset of like not having the mindset of like, what all can I get with this money versus like, what do I need to have? And like, what's the minimal amount I need to spend for it? So yeah, definitely. That's really cool that you guys are, you know, building your brand and all your other brands with like on cash, which is super, super important. Reduces a lot of stress. Now the downside, what people will say is that, you know, you can't scale as fast, but you own everything. I mean,
I don't know. We scaled pretty quick.
Right. I mean, I'll find other ways to scale. I'm not really, I mean, especially now with hitting the pandemic, when you own everything, you don't have any like, there's no like debt to pay out. You know, there's not, well, we have to make sure we get an X number of income to pay all this debt.
Yeah. So, I mean, payroll was a big part of that, right? So, I mean, that was our only concern, is making sure,
right.
We kept everybody employed. Nobody got laid off. And to me, it was huge. And the volume didn't necessarily justify that, you know, because our volume was way off. You know, our call volume was way off. Everything, business was down. So from a business standpoint, I could have laid people off because I didn't need the labor.
Right.
Instead, what we decided to do was bring everybody in and invest in them, invest in their knowledge, right? So we did classes, we did training, let's get caught up on all the stuff, all the cans that we kicked down the road because we're busy being busy during the normal days. Let's go ahead and get those projects done. This podcast we started during the pandemic because it's something we have been talking about forever and just never actually took the time to sit down and say, okay, we're going to do this. So we went out into the shop area, got it set up, and here we are. So yeah, it helps a lot. And we didn't have that stress of how am I going to pay that bill,
right?
You know, because business was off.
You know, the situation that you're in of like not having that pressure of debt on your company is that in a time like this where it's hard to focus on sales, you're now able to like focus elsewhere on things that you're probably like too busy to focus on. We've been doing that with like a lot of our online stuff, where it's like, man, we've always wanted to like reach out to a lot of affiliates or like influencers, but we just haven't had the time. It's like, well, now we'll focus on that thing. So that's really cool that you're, you know, using that to invest into your team of like knowledge and equip them with more knowledge, really.
Yep, absolutely. So as an inventor, you create the Grypmat. You go through that whole evolution and the Shark Tank and the launch pad and everything else. You're enjoying success. How do you not let the success go to your head? And how do you stay focused on not being a one-hit wonder, so to speak?
Yeah. That's a really good question. How to not have the success go to your head. I'm still figuring that out because, you know, my head's like just huge right now. I'm just kidding. I was always like, so the second part that you said, not being a one-hit wonder, I was so afraid of that I don't even like the concept of success going to my head. Like, I think just blew by because I was so afraid of basically how I would explain it is I thought I was like super lucky. Like I felt that I got hit by lightning where I realized I'm the lightning. So like after Shark Tank, things continued to progress. It's not just a one-hit wonder. We get on Shark Tank and then things level out. And I do see a lot of Shark Tank companies that happens to. And it's interesting, like watching other people and like seeing those like pitfalls that they're falling into. I mean, how to like not be overly confident or have the success go to your head. You know, remaining humble, you know, that's easier said than done. Yeah, I think like when we actually aired on Shark Tank, there was so much stress that I had from it just airing. Like we had a party and there was tons of people there. And I was like so nervous of it airing because like, yeah, I got a deal, but I didn't know how it would air. Like when you film, it's like an hour and a half long and then they cut it down to 12 minutes. And I had no idea. I was like, anything that you could worry about, I was. If it was, well, what if it doesn't air? What if there's something that happens? What if they're, you know, and they make Grypmat look like it was a cheap win. I don't know. And yeah, there was also a big struggle that I had was for years, I wanted to be on Shark Tank. And now that I had this thing that I've been wanting and so focused on for so long, it was like, now what? Now what do we do? That was like a pretty like redefining moment of like, so we get on Shark Tank, we do a Shark Tank update, we do another Shark Tank update, and then it's like
now what?
Are you constantly hovering around Shark Tank? Like this is a massive stepping stone in the company, but what's next? So like our core vision for the company is to be, you know, the mechanic's best friend and build an ecosystem of products that are going to make the mechanic's job easier and more efficient. So with that now being like our new North Star than just like being on Shark Tank, it's you know, it's easier to like re-navigate of like, you know, what's our next products? What's, you know, what else do we want to do? How are we going to market? So yeah, definitely like having everything like go to your head and getting too overly confident can definitely easily happen. Yeah, again, I don't think I struggled with that just due to being so stressed out, which is not a good solution to that problem. You know, choosing happiness is definitely, I wish I would have done it a lot more. That was one of the biggest mistakes I made was not choosing happiness, was not choosing to be stressed out. I would say like to stay more humble is like just being grateful for every step along the way, being like, you know, instead of it being an expectation, which there was sometimes like with business competitions, I would expect it, but you know, make sure you're definitely being grateful for it. You don't get that trophy or that award and be like, it's about time you give me this award. It's about time you gave me that giant check. You know, definitely being like reflecting on gratitude is definitely huge to definitely stay humble and not get big headed.
That's awesome. So anybody that's invented something at some point in time or another, somebody else is coming along, whether it's a former employee, a competitor, somebody has come along and tried to copy, steal, or basically piss on your parade, for lack of a better expression. So what's that like, and how do you deal with that?
So at first, when it first happens, it's like a dagger to the heart, you know, you're like, oh my God, they're ripping me off. To kind of like flip that upside down is, you know, I'm kind of like flattered that people will stop their entire lives and try to and copy my product. So it's kind of flattering now. And then also it's interesting seeing that happen, because when that happens, most of the time, like 99.9% of the time, knockoffs are cheaper than the original. So
yeah,
like,
because you put in the work. You
put in the work, but also a big thing is that those knockoffs are expressing to the world, to the audience, to the universe that they are less than, they are inauthentic. Well, at first they're expressing that they are inauthentic, and then therefore they are less than. So authentic will always be inauthentic. So and then a reflection of them being less than is that they have to have a less than price just to compete. Like they're going to charge $20 less just to be on the same playing field for people to just say, maybe, but I'll go with the original.
And that starts out with the arrogance that they think that they can a lot of times.
Right.
Has been my experience because they don't have any bills in the beginning, right?
Yeah. I mean, the thing is, like, if it was like a true authentic, if it was truly authentic, therefore it would be an invention. Therefore it would be something that's a completely new product or new system. So, I mean, the knockoffs are kind of funny, but also, like, the thing is, I see with the knockoffs is that they don't have like, there's not like that history there.
Right.
So if it doesn't work out, then they're like, it just didn't work out. I couldn't figure out how to get this on Amazon and it's not really selling. It's not that big of a deal. We're like, I've been working on this for 7 years. Like, there's a lot of blood, sweat, and tears of this. The core of this was like from my cousin dying, and like I've had several family members dying throughout this process. That's like not from Grypmat, but like from like giving me reasons to want to quit. And it's just kind of like, there's not much more like drive that I have. So like a really big mentor of mine was Hazel Booker, who honestly, if there was like one person that you would take out of my story, and like if you were to take people out of my story and say, would Grypmat still be where it's at? If you were to take out Hazel, I don't think I would have kept going without Hazel. So, having someone like that iconic in my life pass away, like, makes me want to fight harder to move forward. So when it comes to a knockoff, I know they haven't had like massive influential people to inspire them to keep moving forward through the dark ages. They most likely never really had the dark ages to do that. So it's almost like laughable to me now of just like, okay, another knockoff that's going to like try to win, where I know that they haven't done the amount of like customer research and like know their customers deeply, and also know the different markets that Grypmat can go into. So I've seen some people try. It's but also, again, I'm flattered that I can inspire them to create a product. Also, like, another thing is, like, my like vision is to create this product that will help mechanics. So they're just an extension of my vision. So they're also like an extension of my vision. And I guess like I'm flattered that I can inspire them. Hopefully one day I can inspire them to like make their own products that are authentic, that can help people on a much like larger scale. But that's how I feel about knockoffs.
It's a great answer.
They've had like a lot worse cases, but thank you.
Excellent. So Tom, you've been through the launch pad, you've been through Shark Tank. So now you're on the cutting edge launch pad. Give us the 30 seconds why everybody needs to own Grypmat.
30 seconds to why everyone should buy a Grypmat. One, when you buy a Grypmat, you're supporting a veteran, you're supporting more innovation. Shit, man. You like hit my heart. You're really supporting the American dream. So, the reason why
what the hell else do you need to know? Just line up and buy it. Good God.
Right.
You're getting us choked up over here.
It's like truly the American dream of like making something in your basement and able to bring it to reality, something that's going to be used all over the world. So we were rated like the #1 gift in aviation automotive. Any mechanic, it'll save you 25% of the time, and also any tools that are lost. But yeah, keep supporting the American dream and keep those blue collar jobs going.
So how do you buy a Grypmat? Where do you find them?
Yeah, so getting a Grypmat, you can go on our website, www.grypmat.com right here. You can go on Amazon. The Cutting Edge Squad, they got some Grypmats. It's a good website to check out. They also got a lot of other different unique products and brands.
You guys are on social? Facebook, Instagram?
Yeah, social media, just at Grypmat. My personal social media is at Tom26Burton. Follow me on Instagram, TikTok. If you're into TikTok, I've been making some TikTok videos, which are funny.
That's what my crew's been telling me. I haven't watched them yet. I got to see this stuff. Somebody,
you look
I think
like
it was
a TikTok star.
No, man. No, I'm a sales guy. It's not very entertaining. It's effective, but not very entertaining.
Yeah. Yeah. But anywhere online, give us a quick Google search. And we've been actually making, so during this downtime, we've been making a lot of like how-to videos. So I had there was a mechanic that I realized who was out of work due to quarantine. So I put him to work to make written articles and video articles. So he's been making a lot of how-to articles. So we've been like really growing that with our YouTube channel and our social media. So any how-to requests, feel free to DM us, and his name's Rocco. He's highly skilled mechanic. We can have Rocco do a how-to video for you.
Awesome. Thank you, Tom. Thank you for joining us, and we look forward to having you back if you'll join us again.
Yeah, for sure. Thank you so much.
Awesome. Thanks again. Enjoy that that suffering you're subject to over there in Hawaii.
Yeah, a lot of people have been saying, they'll say, are you stuck in Hawaii? And I'll say, I'm blessed in Hawaii.
There you go.
So, yeah, it's been fantastic.
Enjoy it, man. Talk to you soon.
Yeah, bye.
Bye-bye.